This week, I found cause to worry about young men. This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not. The story reported that as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single. Now, look at these numbers. 34% of women, twice as many, a whopping 63% of men. What explains that? I pulled the Pew study and I read with interest. Turns out since 2019, the share of single men who say they're looking for dates or a relationship has declined from 61% to 50%. In 2018, 28% of men ages 18 to 30 reported they'd had no sex in the past year, compared with 18% of women of that age. The Hill report said men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts all of young America. Among the causes, among the factors, a reliance on social media and online porn. But also, more young women are hooking up with each other or dating and marrying slightly older men, and heterosexual women are getting more choosy. Other troubling statistics about men come from a 2021 study from the Survey Center for American Life. They found the share of men who have 6 or more close friends, which in 1990 was 55%, by 2021 had shrunk by half. Meanwhile, those with literally 0 close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%. An expert quoted by The Hill said this disconnect can have catastrophic consequences for young men. Quote, in the worst case scenario, the young American man's social disconnect can have tragic consequences. Young men commit suicide at 4 times the rate of young women. Younger women are largely responsible for rising rates of mass shootings, a trend that some researchers link to their growing social isolation. Well, those words reminded me of a conversation that I had over a year ago right here on CNN with NYU professor Scott Galloway.
What's up, guys? Boogie back again. So guys, men in America are more single than ever before. Men in America are not dating, they're not getting into relationships. Men in America are not even pursuing women. All right? But on the flip side, the ladies, nothing has changed. In fact, they are saying, the ladies, according to research, that not much of a difference from a couple years ago or decades ago. The ladies are still having their fun more than ever. But the only difference is the ladies are chasing just a small percentage of men. So this causes the crazy difference in percentages, as you guys can see, because most men don't measure up to the ladies. All right. And I mean, this makes sense, right? Because now, because of social media, Instagram, whether TikTok, dating apps, and they even talked about the adult content websites that men consume more of the adult content websites, OnlyFans, and so on. The ladies have so much opportunity because I guess back in the day, let's say you live in a small town, the ladies would be dating the men in that same small town. So whether it's the average plumber, the average guys working average jobs, the drivers, whatever, so they would have a small group of men in their own town to date. But now the ladies have there's social media, so guys with money, more status, and like on average you may find a young lady in her DM, she has like 100 DMs, and most of them are way out of town, and most of them probably are doing better than you who lives next door to her. So they're simply saying men are more single than ever before, but most importantly, the ladies have more options than ever before in history, and they're more choosy. That means they're very, very, very selective. Even I watched the full episode, the full video, and they said women swipe left on majority of the men. That was a crazy statistic.
As always, Professor Galloway was prescient. Back with me now is Scott Galloway. He's a professor of marketing at NYU Stern School of Business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the host of the Professor G podcast and author of multiple best-selling books, most recently, Adrift, America in 100 Charts. Scott, thanks for returning. Hasn't the advantage always been to those with the looks and or the money? What's changed?
First off, Mike, I just want to say thank you for raising this issue a year ago when a lot of media companies were afraid to talk about this for fear of it being pro-men was somehow being anti-women. Look, this is returning to the natural order of things. For the majority of history, a small percentage of men have had the majority of the mating opportunities. But in America, we decided to make a huge investment in what would probably be the greatest innovation in history, and that is in the middle class. From 1945 to 1947, 7 million men returned from war were discharged from the service, and we decided to give them the GI Bill, subsidized mortgages. We saw education rates go from 5 to 45%. They were valued, and we had such a strong manufacturing base that you had massive marriage and household formation. And some men were seen as more economically and emotionally viable. And you've seen the reverse happen with the offshoring of much of our manufacturing base, with a society that quite frankly doesn't value young men. When we talk about problems with people of color or women, we see it as a systemic societal problem. When we see problems or the stats that you just mentioned, we see it as accountability, or that men just need to level up.
So guys, that's what the New York professor had to say of the reasons why men in America are not dating anymore. They're not interested in relationships, they're lonely. But you know, I went beyond and I went on my own research because O'Shea Duke Jackson recently did a video about this same issue. And you know, I decided to check out the comments to see if men relate to exactly what the professor was saying or if they feel the same way. So I'm gonna put a clip of the video I did reading the comments in O'Shea Duke Jackson channel video. I'll put the link for the full video, but let's look at the comments of what the men are saying about this issue. All right. A few days ago, O'Shea Duke Jackson made a video about why men are single and don't want relationships with women anymore. You guys go check out that video. But something that really caught my attention was the comments of this video, man. The comments of this video, men were literally expressing the reasons, the various reasons why they don't want relationships anymore. And obviously this is, I guess, speaking from the American point of view, black men in America, or just men in America in general. These comments really caught my attention. Now, these could be true, or maybe they're not true, but I think it's important that we go through them and see what's valid and what's not, you know, because obviously if some of these comments, if these guys made some of these comments in public, they'll probably get canceled, right? But let's go through some of these comments and see why men in America are more single than ever and they don't want relationships. So the first guy goes, being single, having peace and freedom is the best option for a man nowadays. That could be true depending what you think relationships are for, or what you have to get from them, or the investment that it takes to get into said relationship. So there's this guy says, my last relationship was at the age of 23. I'm now at 41. And even though I have asked women out during these years and got turned down, one thing that I realized while being single is that it's so peaceful. Peace of mind is very important to me. If that means I have to be single for the rest of my life to have it, then so be it. Guys, what this goes to show really is this guy has not really been in a serious relationship for 20 years, for almost 20 years. That's crazy and scary. Like, this is a guy who gave up. Like, he's like, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna make my own money and be alone. So now imagine this happens over and over for the next 20 years. And we all know societies and communities are built off of relationships and, most importantly, family. If men and women are not getting together, creating families, building strong communities, guess what's going to happen? Your guess is as good as mine. Let's go on to the next guy. He says, I'm 46 years old, living happily single. What I've learned about female nature is enough to understand that the juice is never worth the squeeze. I don't want to spend the rest of my life sleeping with one eye open, looking if she's dating someone else. I guess he means if she's cheating, right? Acting like a strong guy 24/7 so she doesn't get turned off. Grinding just to see her take half of what I got because she isn't happy. Guys, so the narrative is obviously because of no-fault divorce, apparently women are more likely to take half a guy's assets in case of a divorce, alimony and child support and spousal support and all those things. So I guess that's what this guy's trying to talk about here, right? But he's 46 years old. And I think one thing about men is that if a man has already made up his mind at a certain age, he's probably going to be stuck with whatever beliefs. For example, you're not going to find a man who doesn't believe in God, is not religious, at 40 years old, and suddenly finds God and he becomes this religious type of person. Like, for men, who we are, what we believe in, really takes time to build a strong foundation. And if a guy doesn't believe, if a guy is 46 years old and hasn't found the woman of his life, I don't think it's ever gonna happen. Or if he doesn't believe in love, I don't think it's gonna ever happen. And this is what we see in these comments.